In this lecture, we'll be looking at how we can add UI validation, some icons, and other stuff to our Note screen. The first thing you will notice is if I don't enter the title and the description, I can still save it. There's no UI validation taking place. The second thing is we are using previews, but I can't even see the navigation bar. So first things first, let's go ahead and wrap this AddNoteScreen in a navigation stack, because that is going to allow us to see the navigation bar. Okay, great. We can also add some sort of a title. So let's see where we begin. I think we begin over here. Currently it doesn't really show any title, so I can go ahead and add like a navigation title, and I can say add note. All right. It might also help to say that, we're adding note to what? Because sometimes when you click on a vegetable, you will forget that, oh, I was adding note for which vegetable I was adding note for, right? So we don't really want to run into those situations. So I'm going to go ahead and maybe change this part a little bit. And oops, I think I messed up somewhere. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm going to say over here, my garden vegetable, which I believe is already passed to us, my garden vegetable right there, and dot vegetable.name, we're going to add that note. Right. Now this is fine, I think. Now if you want to use like a different kind of a style where you don't show these large titles, then you can change that. But right now I'm just going to keep it like that. That's fine. It's completely up to you. Those are some UI things you can do. Okay, so save button is already enabled even though the title and the description both are empty. So we need to make sure that the save button is disabled. And if we want to perform any validation, then we can just go ahead and create a property, a private property over here, is form valid. And this is going to return a Boolean property. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that the title as well as the node body, it is not empty or white space. So for that, I'm going to go ahead and add a new file. Let's call it string plus extensions. And over here in this file, we will extend the view, extend the string class over here, string type, and we're going to add this one property called isEmpty or white space. So now, since we have extended it, we should be able to use it in our implementation. So I can say over here that if note title is not empty or white space, because there's a not in the front, and note body is not empty or white space. Nice and simple. And now we can actually use that. So let's find our toolbar with the save button right here. And we can say disabled is form valid. So if the form is not really valid, go ahead and disable it. And you can see now the save button over here is disabled. If I go ahead and enter something in the actual title and also the body, then the save button gets enabled. All right, great. There's no validation for the image itself because it's up to you. If you want to attach an image or a picture or a photo, you can, but that's not mandatory. That's not necessary or required. Let's go to the vegetable tab bar screen. And these are all the things, okay? And if I go to my garden, it looks pretty nice. But remember that some of these, well, this is the green beans. It should be nice if I have a title over here. This one doesn't really have notes. If I go to hot pepper, I see a bunch of notes over here. But looking at this screen, looking at my garden, there is no way for me to tell that which one has notes and which one doesn't, right? So we need to fix that. We also need to make sure that the title that you select something like green beans or something that is shown over here. So let's first fix that problem. That should be hopefully easy to fix because all we need to do is to add a navigation title, and we can say over here my garden vegetable.vegetable.name. So that will give us that particular vegetable title, like tomato over here. Okay. Let's go back to the My Garden screen. All the data we are getting, this is for the preview, and we need to check in the preview that some of these have notes, right? I mean, if I go to green beans, oh, it doesn't really allow me to go there, which is kind of weird. Everything is inside navigation stack. Maybe it's stuck somewhere. Okay, I'll go the long route then. I'll go to the vegetable tab bar screen and I'll pin this because I'll be using this particular view a lot. And if I go there, hot pepper doesn't really have any notes, green bean doesn't have any notes, onion does have notes. So if onion does have notes, it would be nice if I can show an icon right there indicating that onion does have notes. All right. So we need to figure out how to add that icon. Let's go to our My Garden cell view, because My Garden cell view is basically responsible for displaying, all of these things. You see that? Like the actual cell. And in this particular cell, we can already see some things. Like over here, we're displaying the icon, which is the planting option. So right there. So maybe over here, we can do something to show if you have notes or not. So I can say image, system name, my garden vegetable dot notes. All right. Now let's go ahead and check out notes. So notes is nullable. So I can say if it is not equal to nil, then go ahead and display some sort of an icon like list.clipboard is fine, and else you just don't really do anything. And for the foreground color, we can use kind of like this, the green color. All right. Okay, let's go back to the vegetable tab bar screen. It's actually pinned, so we can quickly move over there. And there we go. Now it looks much better. See that? So this means tomato and hot pepper, they both have notes. Let's go ahead and check it out. Yeah, tomato has notes. And hot pepper, oh, hot pepper doesn't have any notes. So why is this happening, right? Green beans, that's kind of weird. Onion is fine. Carrot is fine, but hot pepper doesn't really have any notes. So that is interesting. We will have to see that what just happened over here. What's the deal with hot pepper and why is it displaying that? Is it possible that it does have notes, but they're like empty? That is possible, right? That is possible. But let's go ahead and check out preview container because I'm not really sure how it can get those things. Because the only time we're adding notes over here is these things, and all of these gardening notes are not really null. So it should, we should have these things. So that's kind of interesting. Let's go ahead and run the application in a simulator. Probably I'm making some mistake. In the simulator, it's going to use a real database. So carrot, okay, I can see 2 nodes for carrot. That's fine. I'll go back to vegetables. I will go to green beans, add seedling. Okay, I'll go to tomato, add it, seed. I'll go to my garden. Okay, so there's definitely something wrong. See that? Carrot, green beans, tomato, they all have these things. So maybe our condition that I wrote is wrong. So let's go back over there. All right, so it's saying that if the notes is not equal to nil, okay, not equal to nil, then you show a list.clipboard, which is, I think it's fine. I mean, if it's not equal to nil, this means that it does have notes. So show the clipboard. Else, if it is nil, then you show this. All right, so that's kind of fine. I'm not really sure, but let's see let's see if we can figure out. Okay, so one of the issues that I saw is when you access notes, then what it does is that instead of this being null, this when you access notes, it becomes like a fault, meaning kind of like an empty object, which is not null. So this condition for some things, some cases, doesn't really match. But we can figure it out. What we can do is we can say notes equals to my garden node, so we can unwrap this. So if it is null, we're going to unwrap it. And even then, we can actually say that if it is not empty, see? So if it's not empty, then we can go ahead and display this. So in this case, we don't really need any condition over here. We can just go ahead and display the notes, the list.clipboard. Okay? So after you make this change, if you go over here, you can see that in this, only Onion says that it has notes. So I can go to Onion, I can see the notes. Other things, green beans and carrots, they don't have notes. Let me go ahead and run it so that we can see our actual application. Okay, this is working in the simulator. I can go and I can see only carrot does have notes, and the other thing, green beans, tomato doesn't have note. But what if right now tomato doesn't have notes, but what if we add a note? So let's go ahead and add a note. I'll just say note 1, and I'll save it. Okay, so we got the note 1. I'll go back, and now you can see the tomato does have a note. Great. So this UI is much better because just by looking at the vegetables in the garden, like my garden, you can already tell that which items have notes and which item does not have any notes. All right. So we're on the right track. This is really good. Now we'll move to pest also. We'll move back and forth. Like if we find any bugs, obviously stuff, we will have to fix it. Like right now, you can already see there's some weird stuff going on, right? It's saying the replacement path doesn't exist, and it takes a little bit of time to fetch those information if you haven't noticed. Like if I go over here, these images, I believe, are a little bit bigger images, so that's why it takes, see that? I click on it and it takes a while for them to load. If I go to tomato and I add a note, let's say, hello, planted, and I pick a picture. Now these pictures are actually pretty big, all right? So if you want to resize them, you can definitely do that, but these pictures are pretty big. I'm going to select this picture. I don't think this is big. I know it doesn't really represent the tomato, but let's save it. Now we can see this picture. Another thing to note over here is we are putting this picture, right, which is this thing, our table, but note 1 doesn't have any picture, right? Note 1, because we never added that particular picture for note 1. So now the question becomes, well, what should we do? I mean, we are displaying that particular picture because you took a picture for note, from a picture, from a camera, from a photo library. But what about for those things where you are, not taking that picture? So what should we do with that? So one of the things that we can do is right now, if you look at the note list screen, we added all this code right here, the X stack. And what we can do is we can make sure that all of this code is inside a reusable view. So I'm going to go over here in the new view, and I'll add a new view. I'll call it NoteCellView. Great. The NoteCellView, as you can imagine, will be responsible for displaying the note. And in order for this to work, we will be passing in the note. Apart from the note, we can also pass in the placeholder image. So for those notes that don't really have any image because you never attached to it, we can pass in a placeholder image. Over here, you can already see it's complaining, the NoteCellView in the preview. It's like, hey, you got to pass in the note. What are you doing, right? So how do we pass in a note? Well, let's go to our preview container. Well, in the preview container, we never really added just notes. See that? We have gardening notes over here. We have a vegetable over here. We also have, we're creating these things, which are my garden vegetable, but we never went and created notes. Okay, so I think we will need to probably modify this a little bit so that we can go ahead and create these notes. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Now there are several ways to do that. If you see over here that whenever the random number becomes 1, we do assign these notes, gardening notes, and then we basically save it. See that right there? And when you save my garden vegetable and it has notes, then those notes are also saved in the notes database. So what we can do is we know that there's a very good chance that there will be notes in our notes database depending on this random number. Now, if you don't like this random number thing, you can remove it. That's perfectly fine because yes, there is a probability that when you will, when you create a random number, it's 0, all 5 times is 0, and the notes are never assigned. All right. So there is a probability of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to just leave it like this for now. I'm going to go to the NoteCellView and the preview. I think the one that we had was NoteCellView. And we need to pass in the note and we need to pass in the placeholder image. So in this case, we can use the preview traits. So traits can be sample data. And we will use previewable query. Make sure that you add SwiftData on the top. Var nodes. Now I am telling you right now that there is a possibility that it might say, that there is no node found because all 5 times it just created 0. There is a probability of that. Okay, 0. And over here we're going to pass in some URL. Just going to pass some random URL over here. Not sure why it's complaining. Let's see actually what happened. Notes of 0, that should be okay. And we need to pass in a URL over here. That's what I did. String. There we go. Okay. Now it can say index out of range. I mean, if all 5 times we enter my vegetable into the garden and it all 5 times the random number was 0, so you can remove that random thing. All right. You can do that if you want. Okay. So now we have the NoteCellView. And in the NoteCellView, this is where we can create some user interface that will either display the image, which can be this code, all of this code, display the photo and the title, so all of this, right? And if we don't have the image, then in those cases, we will have to use the placeholder image. Okay, so let's start. And we can also add some other styles to it. So if I go to NoteCellView, I will have to be a little bit careful over here because that's a bunch of code that I will have to copy paste it. So I'm going to go ahead and start with alignment. All right. And apart from that, I think we will just set up some sort of alignment over here. Alignment can be top. Spacing can be 12. Next up, I'm going to use a Z-stack. So what I'm trying to do is create some sort of a gradient background, all right, just so that it will look a little bit nice. So let me go ahead and create. Here we go. You can see that index out of range. See that? That means a random number. Well, it was out of range. All right. There we go. So now we have that background. And if if this is a big hassle because you're always getting like a random number or nodes are just always, they don't exist, then just remove the random number thing and assign nodes or random nodes to everything. That is also fine. All right. All right. So we got the Z stack over here. This looks pretty good. Let's see where it stands. Here we go. Now, if the note has a photo, we should be able to get the photo data. Photo data equals to node.photo. Let UI image. Actually, that's the same exact code we wrote over here, right? So we probably would be able to just copy that. Let's go back over there. And there we go. So if the node has a photo, then we will simply display the photo. Okay, so that's pretty decent. That's pretty good that we can do that. Else, well, else we can go ahead and pick the photo from the placeholder image. Now, right now, for the placeholder, I'm not really providing anything. All right. So what I can do is I can go to the vegetables over here in my JSON file and just pick up something random like pepper. And because we want the photo in this case should be the photo of the vegetable. So that's why, there we go. So that's why we are just passing pepper over here. So it's not going to be like some sort of a placeholder image like not found or things like that, like common for everything. It will be the image. If you don't attach a note, then we want the image of the vegetable to become the image. And now I can go ahead and use async image. There we go. All right. Okay, so this is fine for now. Let's go ahead and add some alignment stuff to it. Actually, is it edstack? We have edstack and then we have zstack, right? So we have edstack, we have zstack. Let me double check it. Probably I messed it up somewhere. Is zstack ending over here? Yeah, all of this stuff has to be inside the zstack. So we got to be careful over here. It's a lot of stuff going on. I'm just going to copy this. So make sure everything is inside the zstack because it should be on top of each other, not on the side. Okay. Okay, there we go. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, so that is working out good. Let me double check what we need to do now. So we are in a edstack. The next thing is to display some other information, like when you created it and all that stuff. We don't really want that to be inside the zstack, so I'm just going to put it right there inside the edstack. So it will be on the side, hopefully. Okay. All right, some sort of information, the body, the node body, basically. Perfect. Okay, now it's actually looking pretty good, right? So let's go back to our NoteListScreen. And in the NoteListScreen, when we are iterating over the notes, we can go ahead and remove all of this because all of this stuff can be done by NoteCellView. We can pass in the note, and the placeholder image can be my garden vegetable.thumbnail image. So that can be the actual image that you display. Okay. All right. Now let's go ahead and give it a try. I'm going to go to the tab bar screen. My garden. Okay, that looks fine. Which one has notes? This one has notes. There we go. See that? It's using the onion image because all of these nodes, remember, all of these nodes are coming from our preview container. All right. So the user has not really taken any image or selected any image from the photo library. So that's why we're using the default image of the onion. Now, if I go ahead and add my own image, let's say planted. I'm going to take a picture of anything. Let's say, I mean, these are big images. That's the main problem. All right. And there we go. See that? So that's appearing over here. Perfect. Okay, so this is pretty good that we are able to refactor our NoteCellView into its own thing, own view, and we are able to display a default image if the user has not really attached any picture or selected any picture from the note. If they have, then we'll display their note picture. All right, that's great. Hopefully you are enjoying it. Let's move further. If you like this video and want to support my channel, then the best way would be to check out azamsharp.school. Azamsharp.school is one of the largest collection of iOS development videos. I have courses on everything that you can imagine for iOS development. This includes Skip, AI for iOS developer, full stack e-commerce app development using SwiftUI Node, Postgres, SwiftUI architecture, Supabase, Firebase, Firestore, core data, full stack iOS development using Vapor. Oh, it's just so much courses, so much to learn, right? Test-driven development, MapKit, Reality Kit, machine learning, so many courses. And I also host workshops. Now, these workshops are 3.5 hour long, and they are very, very hands-on. The next workshop coming up is on February 7th, but you can always look at the workshop pages and enroll for these workshops. You can enroll for these things by purchasing individual courses, or you can also become a monthly or annual member and you get access to the workshop for free. This is a pretty awesome deal. So hopefully you have enjoyed it, and thank you so much, and make sure to share the video, and I will see you as an Azam Sharp member. Thank you.